Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. We've got a lot to cover. As I said on yesterday's broadcast, we blocked off this whole morning for just you and I together. So make sure you get those comments. Make sure you get those waves coming in. But as always, if you missed any of our guests so far this week, and we talked about the life of First Lady Julia Tyler yesterday with the new book, Presidentes, coming out in September. If you missed that, that's on our YouTube page. If you missed our interview with the director and a cast member from Young Frankenstein, which Elmira Little Theater is presenting, you can find that as well as our YouTube page. All right. We're going to be talking about the election results from last night, but we've got a lot about the rise, or maybe perhaps now the fall, of the Democrat Socialists of America. We also have quite a few things here about Trump. Let's get right to it, though. I've got this from a viewer that sent this in this morning. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And this actually is kind of interesting that this came in. It ties in with another topic a little bit later on, which is kind of about not just education system, but kids in general. But frankly, it says, splash pads are for kids. There's no place for adults to go summertime swimming in the city of Corning now that the public pools appear to be deep-sixed by the city council. To meet the needs for all, the Dennison Park pool had a wading pool and splash pad for the kids and a full-size pool for adults. This pool complex is a renowned 1970 mid-century American design by Corning, New York's own Joseph A. Connell Architecture. Constructed of terracotta block in honor of Corning's masonry manufacturing past, is it historical enough to be preserved and repurposed, or will it succumb to the wrecking ball in the history book? Horseheads has Thorn Street Pool. Horseheads performs regular maintenance and timely renovations on this pool. It is still in operation, providing summertime relief for its citizens. Highfalutin, you don't hear that too often, Highfalutin Corning, with all its emphasis on tourism, has dropped the ball when it comes to the outdoor summertime relief for its citizens and the regular required maintenance of its now former public swimming pools. Thank you very much. Weigh in on that viewer's comment, because that will tie in with another topic that I want to get your opinion on later on. But first, because you've been waiting patiently, and this just broke about maybe 2 hours ago, an hour ago, where they finally declared that David Crowley, they are saying the more moderate Democrat, did beat Thanksgiving-hating Francesca Hong. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley beat Democrat Socialist Francesca Hogg. Now, Hogg was interesting because she really said all the right things at one time. You know, finding a reason to be offended, finding the reason to be the biggest victim. That's why everybody focused on her comments on wanting to ban Thanksgiving. But it got so kind of outlandish, or at least I wouldn't say outlandish in that circle. Because remember, yesterday we had the conversation where AOC said, well, some of these things we said was woke one. But we've changed. They haven't changed. They're just rewording it. They're bringing it, and in some instances, bringing the topics more mainstream. So, again, I don't think what she said to the Democrat Socialists of America or even the Democrat Party in some instances was too outlandish. I think there was that concept of it was becoming kind of an anchor around the neck of other candidates. So even Bernie Sanders, who endorses everybody from mayors on up, said, oh, we're not paying attention to that race, so I'm not going to endorse. That was a huge red flag. Well, she lost as of last night at 3:34 a.m., or this morning, I should say. The Associated Press called the race for Crowley 39.8% to 39.4%. It was somewhere around a couple, like 3,000 votes, just again to show you how important your vote is. And as I said, it's even more heavily weighted when it comes to primary races. Hong, who campaigned on hiking taxes for the rich, was snapped wearing black Air Jordan sneakers with a blue jacket and a matching heart-printed socks while casting her ballot Tuesday. By the way, the sneakers can retail online for $300. That's another problem that the Democrat Socialists of America have. They're expensive lifestyles. We're going to be talking about them a little bit later on. And I don't think it's worth relitigating all the things she said, like banning Thanksgiving, when she said police exist to uphold white supremacy, calling for defunding the police, then abolishing. Reform can't be an option. See, these are just some of them. Now, she tried to walk back the statements, even saying, oh no, Thanksgiving's my favorite. Ex-Obama advisor David Axelrod said she is a font of zany liberal faculty lounge exotica. Again, I know AOC is saying the same thing. I know they're trying to distance themselves from the things they said in the past, but it's not that they don't still believe them. They still want to be the most offended, the most aggrieved, the most outraged. They just realize there's either better ways to say it or they keep it to themselves until they're in office. But when Axelrod said that, Hong responded by saying, this tweet is a perfect example of why the consultant class keeps losing elections. They're totally clueless, and they're bent on keeping working class people out of politics. I've spent more time in kitchens and faculty lounges. Perhaps you'd like to come to Wisconsin and work a Friday night dinner rush with me. According to the Wall Street Journal, Crowley told reporters Monday there are a lot of people who are scared. She is a self-proclaimed socialist. There are a lot of people worried about not just the party, but this country moving in that direction. And that's going to be the talks this morning, that the socialists, especially in this case, did lose. I don't think that means it's the end of it. I think it's really only the beginning, because you still have races where obviously they're going to win in New York, but elsewhere the Al-Assad race is going to be fascinating to see if in a general election the socialists can win. So again, calling it last night at 39.8% to 39.4%. The AP called it at 334 for, again, we've got to find a better word than moderate, but the moderate Democrat, David Crowley, beating out Francesca Hong. And just to go to my point on this, about how they're not hiding this, they're just trying to reword it. During CNN's election night coverage yesterday, Jeff Zeleny, the CNN chief national affairs correspondent, discussed this gubernatorial primary. He said that while Hong's supporters thought they would win the race early, that didn't happen, obviously. The closeness of these results really reflects our conversation with voters all day long. Even some of the most self-described liberal-leaning progressive voters expressed some concern and caution about Francesca Hong. Yes, they said they liked her. Yes, they said they enjoyed her policies. Let me requote that. Yes, they said they enjoyed her policies, but they were worried about her electability. So there's no doubt in the end of this race, the undecided voters, and even some of the ones on the fence, wouldn't undecided voters and the ones on the fence be kind of about the same? We're clearly being persuaded by this argument of electability that Governor Tony Evers was really delivering from the rafters as he was supporting David Crowley. So yes, they may support him, but at the end of the day, or may support her and her policies, but at the end of the day, they want to win that power. They want to make sure that they have every bit of power they could have to go after Trump and his policies. In this case, it was a gubernatorial primary, but that's still, we see what our governor here in New York is able to do to try to attack Trump. But that was probably the biggest takeaway. I did not realize this, and I guess it was so lopsided that that's probably why it never really crossed our radar. I might have heard about it at one point. Remember this name? Senator Amy Klobuchar. She ran for president, ultimately dropping out and supporting Biden. She won the Democrat nomination for governor in Minnesota. Klobuchar, who has represented the land of 10,000 lakes in the U.S. Senate since 2007, easily overcame 6 other candidates after a roster of political heavyweights, including Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, AG Keith Ellison, and Klobuchar's colleague Tina Smith opted not to seek the governorship. So she kind of walked into it. Again, she received 89% of the vote in the primary. I have her favorite to win the general election in November as well. But Amy Klobuchar back in the news for whatever that's worth to you. We also had Minnesota House Speaker. We're not going to spend too much time on this because I know it's all Minnesota, but it's worth mentioning. Minnesota House Speaker Lisa DeMuth has won the Republican gubernatorial primary and will move on to face a Democrat nominee in November to replace outgoing Governor Tim Walz. The victory amounts to a significant show of strength for DeMuth, who stayed in the race after losing the Republican Party endorsement to Kendall Qualls at the state convention. Qualls secured the endorsement after 10 ballots, but DeMuth argued that her legislative experience and record of leading House Republicans made her the party's strongest candidate for November. And that means, and leave it to the New York Post. That was Fox, but leave it to the New York Post. Where is it? I got to give you the headline, because this is someone she was facing. My Pillow founder Mike Lindell's political dreams put to bed by Minnesota voters. DeMuth trounced Mike Lindell and Army veteran and businessman Kendall Qualls in the crowded GOP primary field, leading by more than 15 percentage points when the race was finally called. The first black lawmaker and first Republican woman to serve as Speaker of the Minnesota House, DeMuth campaigned on a fraud-fighting agenda, pledging to immediately take steps to enact a fraud prevention plan if elected. No longer will our government be fixated on shoveling out tax dollars first and asking questions later. So, defeating perhaps arguably a bigger name nationally, Mike Lindell. Now, it should also be noted that in Minnesota, and we know there's a lot of fraud going on there, so maybe the voters of Minnesota should keep this in mind. No Republican has won a statewide election in the state since 2006, when Governor Tim Pawlenty narrowly won re-election by less than a percentage point. Republicans have lost 28 consecutive statewide contests through the 2024 election, an 18-year drought that became the longest for either party in Minnesota history. Very reminiscent of us in New York. Now, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, who I just mentioned, which would be Tim Walz's lieutenant governor, defeated Representative Angie Craig. The latest test of whether the electorate is moving further to the left or toward the center ahead of the critical midterm election. Flanagan, 58.8% of the vote compared to Craig's 39.7% when the Associated Press called the race at 11:27 p.m. last night. What was his name? Flanagan, who has served as embattled Governor Tim Walz's number 2 since 2019, campaigned on many of the same progressive policies that propelled Abdul El-Sahad, so she was going more far left, with Medicare for all, ending U.S. aid to Israel over the genocide, that's a quote from her, in Gaza, and getting big money out of politics. So it's kind of a mixed bag this morning, if we're being honest. We'll do the takeaways from the more liberal outlets like CNN and what their takeaways were. But it wasn't a clear, victorious night for Democrat Socialists of America, but there were wins. There were some losses. There was also the attacks on the incumbents, basically due to age. The Democrat Party is dealing with that, where they feel that age, the older you are, obviously the bigger, what's the word I'm looking for? Bigger, just anchor around your neck. That it's a bad thing. Luke Bronin defeated longtime Representative John Larson in Tuesday's Democratic primary for Connecticut's 1st Congressional District. Representative John Larson, 78 years old, and had been in that seat for nearly 3 decades. All right. Who else do we got? We got a couple other ones. I know I'm running late. If you have any questions, we're going to tell you about some of the Republicans. We'll tell you about some of the takeaways. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have a lot to get to, and I know it's not New York State specific, but I do think it's worth noting some of these wins and losses. Now, Democrats in deep blue Vermont have a new nominee as they take a 6th straight shot at trying to oust popular Republican Governor Phil Scott. Democrats in deep blue Vermont have a new nominee as they take a 6th straight shot. Economist Amanda Janu defeated former child advocacy organization CEO Allie Richards, who is backed by former Democrat Governors Howard Dean, remember that name, Screaming Howard Dean, and Madeline Kunin, to capture the party's gubernatorial nomination, according to the Associated Press. All right. We got to take a short break, then we'll get you to some other results. If you have any questions about the results, like I said, I don't want to have to read them all morning, so if you have any questions, let me know. Keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We asked a few motorcycle friends, why do you ride?
You can just shout out to the world and nobody can hear you.
I love going out for miles and miles, hours and hours by myself.
It's a thrill that you are constantly chasing.
It's a way to get free.
I love the twisty roads.
It's not about the destination, it's about the ride, right?
Folks that ride should know. At William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444-4444.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83, we'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler to end.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Got a comment from a viewer. Morning, Frank. Just curious. Okay. Has there been any additional information regarding the latest potential golf course assassin? What is his nationality? Has it been determined that he is a foreign terrorist or just a demented Democrat? There's not a lot known. I did an update, or I looked for an update. The only thing I think we knew this quite early, and the one that I found most recently was LA Times, because it happened in California, if you recall. He was a former Marine who did tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and until July of last year, he was licensed to work as an armed security guard. But I don't have a lot more information. If anything passes my desk, I will let you know. But the last updates looking here at, again, quick commercial break search, 5-6 days ago. So nothing really new. All right. Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene, did advance to the runoff. There's a runoff in the GOP battle for Lindsey Graham's old seat. Darlene, who was appointed to fill out the remaining months of Lindsey Graham's seat in an interim capacity last month, had President Trump's backing in the crowded field. She'll now face Representative Ralph Norman, who emerged from the crowded field with the second place slot. As of 11 p.m. last night, Graham led with 33% of the GOP primary vote compared to Norman's 24%. Since no one reached the 50% threshold, the runoff is required in 2 weeks. Man, this is going to get costly. Graham and Norman beat out several contenders, including former South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, remember that name? Representative Russell Fry, businessman Mark Lynch, and more in an election for a full 6-year term. Graham honored her brother during her victory speech, saying this past month has been brutal. Today is the 11th. My brother passed away 1 month ago today, so none of this has been comfortable for me. But like I said, I'm a fighter. I have buried my precious brother. I have taken on the role of the United States Senator, and I have had this brutal campaign schedule, and I'm still standing. If that doesn't tell you I'm a strong person and a fighter, nothing will. So I think I can handle the next 2 weeks. She said she's open to debating Norman and thanked Trump for support, saying, quote, this is what Trump said, quote, she has my complete and total endorsement right from the beginning. She fully supports the Trump agenda and will help us achieve our mission. She's tough. She looks so nice, but she's actually tough. She's strong, and she's the perfect person to carry on Lindsey's legacy. So there you are, Lindsey Graham's sister. We've been watching that race closely just because of how tough it must be on, now, again, Senator Darlene Graham. So we have... we'll be watching that for the next 11 days. Oh, here's one. I know many of you will be familiar with her. Former sportscaster Michelle Tafoya cruised to victory yesterday in the Minnesota Republican Senate primary. The four-time Emmy Award-winning sports journalist entered the GOP primary after incumbent Senator Tina Smith announced she would be seeking a second term last February. Tafoya led with 51% of the vote, besting former Navy SEAL Adam Schwarz, who had 22%. This is coming from New York Post. So you have Tafoya, 51%, Navy SEAL Adam Schwarz, 22%, and ex-professional basketball player Royce White, 9%, with about a fifth of the ballots counted. So still a little ways to go, but it looks like it's still being announced. So she was victorious in the Minnesota GOP Senate primary. Isn't she on Gutfeld's show quite frequently? I think that's where we see her. Tafoya has been endorsed by the National Republican Senatorial Committee. President Trump, however, did not give Tafoya his stamp of approval. Minnesota Republicans also opted to endorse Schwarz over her at the party's convention in May. So definitely some interesting takeaways. And then we're going to move on. Get ready for some questions because I got some questions for you. CNN put together their takeaways. And I like to look at this because you got to remember CNN doesn't want to see Republicans ever win. They want a Democrat to win. I would guess if they had their druthers, it'd probably be a Democrat Socialist of America, but they're probably just happy either way. Well, they said the establishment strikes back in Wisconsin. And do you think this is the death knell for the Democrat Socialists of America? I personally do not. But with Hong losing, that was a huge kind of stain on their recent record. So they said it was another underperformance for the left. August has been a big test for the left wing of the Democrat Party. I love the way they word this. They'll say ultra progressive sometimes. They won't just say socialist, as if the other candidates aren't left wing. But a rare chance for it to demonstrate its ability to win not just in deep blue urban areas, but also swing states. But for the second straight week, its candidates had a dogfight on their hands. Last week it was Abdul al-Sahad, but he won. But it was even tighter loss for Hong. So what explains this? One possibility is that some voters might be gun shy about following through and voting for candidates who might struggle to win in the general election. Democrat leaders have worried greatly about nominating both al-Sahad and Hong, and perhaps some voters were convinced those votes would be too risky. Polling primary elections is also more difficult than general elections because the universe of voters isn't as predictable. And there is some thought that these surveys might be oversampling more educated urban voters who favor more left-wing candidates and undersampling more rural, blue-collar ones. Now, progressives did win the Minnesota Senate primary. Again, progressives. I just think that's so funny. So the far left, the Democrat Socialists of America, they don't want to say it. So Minnesota progressives won yet another race that served as a proxy battle between the party's left and center flanks. Yeah, I thought that's what it said. And I don't want to go through each of these, but now the lieutenant governor will be a heavy favorite in November when she'll take on Michelle Tafoya. So you could see a far left candidate winning there. We also had Darlene Graham makes a runoff but has her work cut off for. It's been a bad week for Trump endorsees. I didn't realize. I like how they say not only does Graham have plenty of work to do, she did very well in the primary. So what are we talking about here? She's got 11 days. Anyway. But I guess Trump did endorse Mike Lindell. So that says 3 Trump-backed candidates have lost since last Tuesday. The first was Michigan congressional candidate Amir Hassan on August 4th. He lost to a candidate who had dropped out of the race, Tom Smith, by double digits. Then it was incumbent Representative Andy Ogles, falling to former Tennessee Agricultural Commissioner Charlie Hatcher on Thursday. And now it's Graham going to a runoff and Lindell losing to Minnesota State House Speaker Lisa DeMuth. So, okay, there's a runoff, but she didn't lose. I guess I'm confused by that message. Lindell's loss means 7 Trump-backed candidates for Congress or statewide office have lost this primary season, including 5 who ran for statewide office. The 7 losses are more than Trump-backed candidates had in 2018 and 2020 and 2024. Well, do you notice how they don't tell you how many he got? Interesting, CNN, how you would admit that, and a pretty darn important point to make. I guess there's Democrat upheaval in Connecticut. The Democrat divide was less about ideology than generational change, and that's the one that I mentioned where 78-year-old incumbent Representative John Larson lost to Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin. Democrats stick with the establishment pick in key Wisconsin district, and I think that does it. So there you go. You have any questions about it, but that's probably enough on that. We'll mention it at the top of the hour, 7 o'clock, just not all of those, but some of the bigger takeaways. We can talk about Francisca Hong. That was a blow, no doubt about it, to the Democrat Socialists of America. But again, they must have been reading the writing on the wall because Bernie Sanders endorses pretty much from dog catcher up. So for him to say, I'm not paying attention to that governor's race, definitely huge red flag. AOC tried to defend her, but that was strange too. So I think they saw maybe the writing on the wall there. So I don't think it's quite as big of a loss. So they would have been happy to take the win, I'm sure. But what do you think about what this means for the Civil War that the media will not talk about? But the Civil War, really, I mean, they talk about it in generalities as if there's a conversation, right? But it's really a civil war. It's the Democrats, what they would call moderate or establishment, but still far left. Democrats first, Democrat Socialists of America, because remember, Democrat Socialists of America need you to be 100% adherent to their policies. So that's why the Democrat Socialists of America are also fighting with the Democrat Socialists of America, because someone might be 99%, and that's not enough. Okay, I know we're getting a little into the weeds here, but it's true. So even though you have a far left candidate who may be, 95% in line with the Democrat Socialists of America, that is not enough for the Democrat Socialists of America. So it's interesting, the Civil War playing out, that the media has blinders to. But we'll talk. I know I'm running late. We're going to get away from that topic, though. You can continue to keep those conversations coming in, keep those messages coming in. We'll talk about it that way. I have a couple questions for you when we return, and it's really about the state of childhood, how kids are doing. We had that viewer write in about, yes, there's splash pads, but there's not a place for grown-ups and kids to swim in Corning. This is a little different than that, but we can say it ties in. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
With the U.S. Department of State releasing a travel caution worldwide, firefighters responding to a fire alarm on Wednesday found several safety violations.
Free local pantry here in her front lawn and painted post.
Come celebrate the 207th Steuben County Fair from Monday, August 17th through Sunday, August 23rd. Wednesday, August 19th is Broken Bee Rodeo starting at 7 p.m. And there's more. Demolition derbies, monster truck show, games, rides, fun for the whole family. For tickets and information, visit SteubenCountyFair.org. Experience the Steuben County Fair from August 17th through the 23rd.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the Army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. I saw Lindsey Graham's sister's speech and was impressed. I found her to be likable and in tune despite her lack of experience. Yeah, I'd have to say everything I've seen from her, I've been very impressed, especially you put even aside everything that's been going on in her life and learning essentially a new profession and campaigning. These next couple of weeks are going to be interesting as she faces that runoff. Okay, the New York Times, and here's a question I'm going to ask you. The New York Times says or asks, should letting children play alone outside be a crime? Some parents have been surprised to find themselves in the legal system's crosshair. Well, I know in Albany they're debating that if a child gets in trouble, some type of crime, could the parents be punished as well? We're going to talk about that when we get to New York State issues, but that ties in with this. And you know what? I don't have to keep that right to New York State issues, do I? I can jump ahead a little bit. It's not Albany. I should have been more specific. It's not Albany as in our assembly and our state senators in Albany County, but they're proposing to hold parents accountable for youth crimes. Albany County lawmakers weigh proposals to hold parents accountable for youth crimes. This proposal that would hold parents and guardians accountable when their child commits crimes, a measure supporters say could help address youth crime, but critics worry could deepen a punitive system and overlook individual family circumstances. Have a feeling this probably won't go through. The Albany County Legislature voted to move forward with holding a public forum discussion on the local law that would help parents and guardians accountable for, man, they word that the same way over and over again. Frank Morello, a Republican representing District 27, said similar laws elsewhere can be harsher. There's other parental responsibility legislation throughout the country, and most of them are very punitive. They impose fines and jail time. We're not doing that. All we want to do is we want to get people into programs and services that will help them. Still, some community members said they're concerned the proposal would lead to incarceration and does not address the underlying needs. But in there, they want to punish the parents. But going back to what the New York Times is asking, and in typical Times fashion, they go through and tell a story of Mallory Shirley. And I don't want to go through the individual story. But they're asking the questions. The question, should letting children play alone be considered a crime? They talk about free-range kids, and every single one is a specific, like, man-on-the-street type interview, which is just crazy. But you get the idea. I think the question says it all. Some parents have been surprised to find themselves in the legal system's crosshair. So if you let your children play outside alone, you could be in some trouble. She didn't think much of it until 2 days later when a case manager from the Fulton County Division of Family and Child Services showed up at her house. Ms. Shirley was not home, but Mr. Pleasant was. The case manager explained that a complaint had been filed and that she would need to inspect their home and interview their son at school. When we were growing up, our parents would be like, oh, go ahead, it's fine, the case manager said. But now he would have to be like 13 years old. Anyway, since we're talking about that, so kids can't go outside and play, then let's say when they grow up, and they go to school, and we've talked about the indoctrination in the education system, and we've talked about the rise in anti-Semitism because of, and so many other issues, but because of this far-left agenda in the education system. But listen to this out of the University of Michigan. The University of Michigan won't release official grades for its freshmen's first semester. The university said the pivot to a pass, no-credit system for first semester classes is an effort to curb the mental health crisis among students. So again, just first semester, just freshmen, but when does this continue? When does the slippery slope continue? The pilot program will start in the fall of 2027 and apply to the roughly 3,500 students that enter the College of Literature, Science, and Arts each year. Professors will still give students grades on assignments, and the school will internally track grades for scholarships and athletic requirements, but the letter grades won't show up on the students' transcripts. The administration said the program is aimed at helping students transition to college-level work and explore courses that are more difficult without the risk that a bad grade early on would tank their GPAs. Critics outside the school argue the new approach creates entitlement and doesn't do anything to improve mental health. All right, enough on that. Those are just some oddball ones I wanted to get to. Okay, how are we doing? I think we're doing good on everything. Yesterday, in the evening, President Trump did a Truth Social post celebrating Samuel Alito and Alito's decision to remain on the bench for another term. Trump's celebration of the 76-year-old conservative stalwart's decision to put off retirement comes as the midterms raise the stakes over how long Republicans will retain the Senate majority needed to confirm any eventual successor. Trump said, "Great news for the country. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito has announced that he is staying for another term." Now, what outlet was it that has since had to apologize because they ran? I don't want to say because I don't remember exactly. I think I have a pretty good suspicion of who it was, but I don't want to say exactly. But they had ran he's retiring, and they had to backtrack in an embarrassing fashion. But Trump continued, "He is one of the greatest of all time. We are all lucky." Alito, in an interview published by the Wall Street Journal, said, "Obviously, I'm here for another term. The Supreme Court's next term begins in October and typically concludes with its final opinions in late June or early July." Alito and fellow conservative Justice Clarence Thomas, who is 78 years old, have faced some calls from conservatives to step down, which would give Trump one potential last chance to appoint a fourth Supreme Court justice to the lifetime post. Trump appointed 3 others during his first term in office: Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, giving the court a 6-3 conservative majority. Alito said to the Journal, "It's not pleasant in the sense that it's a reminder of mortality. It's like, what are these vultures doing up there? They're flying around, but it goes with life tenure. The window to replace one of the court's oldest conservative justices with a younger jurist who could potentially remain on the bench for decades might narrow considerably after November. Republicans currently hold a 53-47 Senate advantage, counting the 2 independents who caucus with Democrats on the Democratic side. Because Supreme Court nominees require Senate confirmation, a Democrat takeover in the 2026 midterms could effectively prevent Trump from replacing Alito, and that, of course, was the major concern, and that's why people were talking about it. Democrats would need a net gain of 4 seats to reach 51 and take outright control, with J.D. Vance otherwise positioned to break a 50-50 tie. So the reality places unusual weight on Alito's decision to remain. Now, again, Trump very excited about this. Alito does a great job. No question about that. Obviously, a lot of people look at, and there was a lot of anger there when, and this is on the other side of the coin, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg stayed on what Democrats later thought, because remember, she was an icon to the Democrats, and they had people had tattoos and these shirts and everything. But then they turned on her after she passed, weirdly enough, because they believed she stayed on too long, gave Trump that extra seat. So that's why there's talks in this scenario of Alito, though he is a conservative. People want to make sure that there's an opportunity for the president to replace with his own party in this instance. But Trump praising the decision for Alito not to retire, and I think it's a good move on Alito's part, a good move on Trump's part to praise him. All right, we got to take another short break. There are a lot of attacks on Trump. We're not going to talk about too many of them because I want to get to the Democrat Socialists in America. There's a couple of like weird oddball stories. I know one of the talks is about that flight that he took home from Turkey, where the media is trying to present it as he put decoys essentially on the one plane while he took another for his own safety. Run with that what you will. That is a huge talking point to the left right now. Just look at Drudge Report and how many places are reporting it. But we got a couple things on that when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
You don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselson's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselson swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83. We'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler to end the week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And yeah, a comment from a viewer a few weeks ago, father whose son you had fired on, I believe it was a school. He was convicted and sentenced. The father was. Yeah, so that's why that's why it all ties in. I think we brought that up a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure. Yeah, you said 6 years. I don't remember how long it was, but thank you. All right. This is going to get some blood boiling out there. President Trump said that, well, let me take a step back. I hate when they do it that way. But it was during an interview. Wayne Allen Rue asked the idea, or posed the question, what if you called a national security emergency for the midterm elections? He said because it's so hard to get the Senate to do anything, now they're on recess, they don't get anything done. If they never get the Save America Act done, they have the right to declare a national security emergency for elections. You have the right, meaning to President Trump. And the Supreme Court ruled in 1983 under Reagan, INS versus Chadha, that if you declare a national security emergency as the President of the United States, they can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So if you do this in the next month, we will get photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots. Trump said, let me just say that stranger things have happened, okay? I'll leave it at that. Well, that's going to get some people talking. But so I guess, so declaring a national emergency, this is where I get confused by it. Maybe you understand. That if you declare a national security emergency, they can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So that means the national emergency. So during a national emergency, he can demand that there's photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots. But wouldn't that be just temporary for one midterm? But the president, this is where the conversation is going to go from the mainstream media. The president did say, let me just say that stranger things have happened, okay? I'll leave it at that. And the outlets I'm seeing that from were not happy with that response. Now, this does come after the SAVE Act looks all but dead. The Senate, that's been going to be a big uphill battle come November, where Republicans have a little apathy out there saying, well, I keep voting Republicans in and they're not getting the job done. I don't think that's overall the attitude, but I understand why people are frustrated, especially when it comes to the SAVE Act. 80% of Americans, according to polls, not the perfect number, I don't remember the exact number, but 80-ish% of Americans support photo ID for voting. And yet the Republicans can't push it through. So I understand the frustration. I think that's going to, well, we'll just say raise some conversations. Now, here's another question for you. Before we get to talking about Democrat, Socialists of America, again, if you want to know more about the results from yesterday. Minnesota. Let's see, Wisconsin. Where else have we got? We got a whole bunch of things. If you want to know, please. But I will say the biggest takeaway is probably that Francisca Hong losing to David Crowley in the Wisconsin gubernatorial primary. Again, it's a big surprise, I suppose. But boy, I thought there was something up when Bernie Sanders didn't endorse her. Bernie Sanders endorses everybody. And that was one of the critiques on Bernie Sanders. That yes, he definitely banked some wins for his socialists, but the losses that he had were major losses. And that's not even just to say Graham Plattner, who they had to oust because of the accusation of rape. I'm talking actually when it gets to the primary, when it gets to the general. So what was his reasoning? I think that was all of our takeaways. If he wasn't going to endorse, what was the reason? I think that's when we all started seeing the red flags. The Francisca Hong maybe wasn't looking as good as the media wanted to present her, or wanted to hype her up because she was an interesting storyline. I don't know. But last thing before we go to break. This is at the Spectre. Is Donald Trump becoming the new Jimmy Carter? Yeah, I'm not going to read it. That's pretty much all you need to know. That's what the whole article is. They go through specifics, and they bring Iran into this. It's interesting with this because for a long time, the Democrats still would try to prop up Jimmy Carter's legacy. So now they're saying, is Trump the new? So now all of a sudden, Jimmy Carter's real bad. It reminds me of with the Iran deal that Obama made. That they would tell you straight to your face, it was a great deal, great deal, great deal. And then when Trump was working on a deal, they said, is this going to be worse than the disaster of Obama's deal? And you say, well, where was this talk of disaster when it first happened, or any time from when it happened until now? They were telling us if Trump got out of it, it would be the end of the world. So it's just interesting how the media can rewrite history in real time, isn't it? But on that note, maybe you heard the Corning whistle, maybe you didn't, but I did. So we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
The Vencino Group says it will cover hotel stays for residents through March 20th.
They're pushing for an additional $250 million to the state budget.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Wow, just looking from a new Sienna poll. Oh, wow, this is interesting. Sienna just put out a poll. We're going to talk about that in just a second with the gubernatorial race. Wow, this is impressive. Okay, Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I think it's a great idea for Trump to use the national security to get only American citizens to vote. Illegals, in my book, have no right to be here or to vote. Thank you, Mark. Before we talk about kind of the far left Democrats, I did want to mention Senator John Fetterman. I thought this was kind of nice. He said that he will not campaign against Senator Dave McCormick, a Republican, if his fellow Pennsylvania senator seeks re-election in 2030. Now, he did stop short of endorsing him, but he said, well, I would absolutely never move against my friend. He called McCormick a great guy. I would never, ever move against my friend. I thought that was nice. Okay, as I said, this is kind of interesting. The numbers coming from New York. We'll get to those at the top of the hour because Siena poll of likely New York voters. It's not, okay. If you recall 2 weeks ago, maybe it was mid last week, there was a poll that came out that showed Bruce Blakeman within 4 percentage points of Governor Hochul. The one thing I will take away from that was done by a pro-Blakeman super PAC or pro-Blakeman PAC. So you had to take it with a grain of salt. Now, a lot of times you want these kind of internal polls. Sometimes they're more accurate. Don't get me wrong. But when I say that these are exciting numbers, it's because it's coming from Siena, which is a lot different than a pro-Blakeman PAC. That this, you could say, even skews to the left. But Siena poll of likely New York State voters, Hochul's at 49%, Blakeman at 39%. So 10% as we near the finish line. Of each of 4 character traits, Blakeman's net score beats Hochul's net score. Tough, in touch with average New Yorkers, honest, gets things done. So he's beats Hochul in those traits. Tough, in touch with average New Yorkers, honest, and gets things done. When it comes to this one's shocking, and she does such a great job. Kamala Reddy, we interviewed her running for AG. She's as a Republican candidate. She's at 36%. Letitia James at 54%. More people have to see Kamala Reddy because she just does a great job. When it comes to New York State Comptroller, DiNapoli's at 56%, and Joseph Hernandez, 32%. Again, these are all Republicans that we interviewed on this program. So they're interesting numbers. Again, there's a lot to take away from this, just like there's a lot to take away from Blakeman's recent polling numbers. But I just want to pass that along, and we'll talk more about it in the 7 o'clock hour. I know I got to take another short break already. When we return, we're going to talk some Democratic Socialists of America, so make sure you stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
One big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music.
The tide isn't just a gentle ebb and flow. It's a mighty force of change. Just like the tide shapes our shorelines, we can shape our planet's future and protect the world's oceans from its biggest threats. Help us turn the tide. Join Oceania's wave of ocean advocates who are making a difference in the world.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83. We'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler to end the weekend.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. All right, just to bring up a topic that we mentioned quite a bit yesterday, and then we'll move on and wrap up this hour. Buffalo Bills games. We talked about the new stadium and some of the criticisms and critiques of the new stadium. Buffalo Bills games now the most expensive to attend in the NFL, according to a new study, with family game day costs peaking at over $2,100. That's according to the Action Network. The digital sports outlet analyzed more than 500,000 tickets across all 32 NFL teams, factoring stadium food, drinks, and parking to determine the average cost for a family of 4 to attend a game. Highmark Stadium, for a family of 4, topped the list at $2,193.95, the highest total in the league. It's the 4th year the Action Network has run the study, and spokesperson Kathy Morris said the Bills' new stadium is a clear driver of that jump. It's something we see across all sports teams. When we see a team move up and it's an interesting jump, why? And we look at it, it's a new stadium driving that. They also do have some pretty expensive hot dogs, so maybe eat beforehand. Wow. That is a wow. Family of 4, $2,100. See a Bills game. Keep in mind that if they're a New Yorker going to see that Bills game, they help pay for that stadium they can no longer afford. And just to add insult to injury, if you're going to a Bills game or any other event at the new Highmark Stadium, you'll pay an extra 6% on your purchase. That's part of the deal with the Buffalo Bills in Erie County, included in the 30-year lease for capital improvements and repairs. The tax is called the Erie County Surcharge. It's being added to tickets, parking, food and drinks, merchandise, other sales at the stadium. What else is left? The money is being collected by a third party and deposited into a separate Erie County-owned surcharge account. Ooh, that raises some red flags. Third party involved, huh? Per the lease, the money is expected to be deposited into a different account every year on April 30th. If you buy anything at the concession stand and your bill is $40, you'll pay an extra $2.40 in Erie County surcharge fees. If you buy an $80 sweatshirt at one of the Bills stores inside the stadium, you'll pay an extra almost $5. What's the math cost on the $2,100? I'm not that good at that, but $2,000. So you got to figure about what, 12, 120, 100? I don't know. I shouldn't even have guessed. It would be more than that. 200, maybe, give or take, on this surcharge. Just something to keep in mind. I know we had that conversation yesterday, so why not? Why not keep it going? All right, when we talk in the next hour, just go through quickly a couple of big takeaways from yesterday's primaries. Then we got a lot to talk about with New York, but we also have a lot to talk about here with the Democrat Socialists of America. Did you see, by the way, we ran out of time to mention this yesterday, so it's a little bit of an old story. Let me bring it up since we have just 1 minute. In Massachusetts, and when this law was signed into law, people in the room cheered. In Massachusetts, abortion will now be allowed at any time before birth. Democratic Governor Maura Healey signed away the state's abortion limits on Monday, permitting it at any point, abortion at any point during the 40-week gestation cycle. Now, previously, they had allowed abortion to up to 24 weeks. Wow. Abortion bill allowing terminations up to birth out of Massachusetts. Okay. Where are we going to go? Okay. I know I keep saying okay. I don't want to run too late. We do have some guests coming up later in the week. We're going to hear about India Day on Friday. We keep up the tradition on this program, talking about that great event that we have here in Corning. We're also going to talk, I don't remember, we have a lot of guests coming up, but I didn't write them down. But I want to remind you that this weekend's a busy weekend. India Day here in Corning on the 15th, as well as the Rotary's Summer Feast on the 15th, which we learned about on last week's program. We do have some other events we'll be highlighting on this program. If you ever miss one of our interviews, just go online to our YouTube page or WYDCTV.com, and you can find it. There's a Frankly Speaking tab. So if you missed it, you can find out more about all these great events and all of our great interviews, like yesterday with the authors of Presidentes, the life of First Lady Julia Tyler. All right, let's take that break. Hour number 2 coming up in just mere moments.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Making arrangements is one of the best gifts that you can give to your family. When you prearrange your funeral, you have taken away all questions and all doubts what your final wishes are. In a cost-free, no-obligation appointment, we can sit down with you and answer any questions that you have. And we will meet you at your home or at the funeral home. Your family doesn't have to tell your story. You can tell your story for yourself.
Visit carpentersphillipsflint.com.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go through, I got some comments here. We're going to go through some of the winner just really quickly, because if it's ever a primary day, you should join us right at the 6 o'clock, at the beginning of the 6 o'clock hour, because I don't want to go through all of them, but there are some big takeaways we'll go through here quickly. But first, viewer comments. I'm in hopes that someday you will get one of those Democrat communists on your program. That would be like Christmas. Well, thank you very much. We can try. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. When I heard about Massachusetts last night, it's absolutely sickened me. I know I'll get a lot of blowback, but it's nothing but murder. So thank you very much. Holiday hating, Thanksgiving hating, Francesca Hong, that's probably the biggest takeaway from last night. Loses to moderate David Crowley in the Wisconsin gubernatorial primary. Now, I read somewhere that there could be a recount because it's very close. As of when the Associated Press called it at 3:34 a.m., it was 39.8% to 39.4%. It was somewhere around 3,000 vote difference. So we could see a recount, just worth noting. Now, Amy Klobuchar, well, and Drudge Report says it's a blow to the rising left. Is it? I mean, I think it doesn't help, but I think there's a reason why Bernie Sanders didn't endorse her. I think they saw a loss coming. Maybe because of polling numbers or just some of the crazy things she said. So, like banning Thanksgiving. So, I don't know if it is as big a blow to... I mean, they're not going to think it is. Democrat Socialists of America aren't going to think it is. So, Amy Klobuchar won the Democrat nomination for governor in Minnesota. That means that she was senator. That means she's now governor, or she's going to be running for governor. I think that's who they say she was facing. I think that might have been they're all blending together. Minnesota House Speaker Lisa DeMuth wins GOP gubernatorial primary to replace Tim Walz in November. She beat Mike Lindell and others. And the other big takeaway, Francisca Hogg is a pretty big takeaway. We could talk more about that if you wanted to. But excited that Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene, she did advance to a runoff. So it's not over, but she did advance to a runoff in a crowded field. Lindsey Graham will face Ralph Norman. He got the second place slot, so it was 33% for Graham. Norman's 24%. Since no one reached 50, they have the runoff. Yes, I was right. Michelle Tafoya cruised to victory in the Minnesota Republican Senate primary. That's a race I was saying earlier that I couldn't think of the name. Okay, let's move on. But keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. If you have any questions about the primaries, be more than happy to help. But that's probably the most we're going to talk about them, because since we talked about them so extensively in the 6 o'clock hour. Gavin Newsom tells Detroit Church that Trump wants to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. Anti-woke is nothing. Is this right? All right, what's this from? The Midwesterner. California Governor Gavin Newsom was in Michigan, because remember, he's going to run for president. He was to campaign for Democrats, though, under the guise of just campaigning for Democrats. He took time to pander and fearmonger to black churchgoers in Detroit. Newsom told congregants, "The Reverend reminds us people are struggling, people are suffering, and that it's not just faith, it's works. As we pray, we have to move our feet." And I have to tell you, we've got a lot of work to do. I don't want to get political, Reverend, but we have an invasive species in the White House. These guys are ruthless. They want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. We have someone in the White House who wants to put America in reverse. They're rewriting history, censoring historical facts, DEI, ESG, everything with 3 letters. Anti-woke is nothing more than anti-black. We know that. Anti-woke is nothing more than anti-black. We know that. Newsom promised congregants that Democrats have your back, but insisted it's not about politics. It's about who we are and what we're capable of becoming. The spirit of Isaiah, to be repairers of the breach, and that's what we're all here to do. Wow. Now that's very similar to comments made back in the past by like Joe Biden and others. This is not maybe, wow. Again, there you go. That's the kind of rhetoric that they're spewing. But again, Gavin Newsom is thinking about running for president. We'll see where that heads. Okay, enough about that. Andrew Cuomo, this is coming from the Daily Kos. So they're far, far left, and they don't like Andrew Cuomo. Because remember, we lived through Andrew Cuomo, and we know he was far left. We know that he caved to the far left in so many instances. That's why we got bail reform. That's why we got the green energy policies that we did. But he wasn't left enough for them. And now they all rewrite history because, remember, they loved him during COVID. So listen to how the Daily Kos writes it. Andrew Cuomo emerges from loserdom to attack progressives on Fox. And this is what they don't like, that he's talking, because his chief of staff, Melissa Del Rosa, has been doing the same thing. I've been quoting her when she calls the DSA parasites. But Fox News has turned to Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced former New York governor and failed New York City mayoral candidate, for negative commentary on the Democrat Party's ascendant progressive movement. Remember, they're going to call the socialists, they already are, progressives. Cuomo said the Democrat leaders are embracing a lot of these socialists because they are following the political winds after left-wing candidates won primaries. If you let some people in the tent, you're going to have to let others leave the tent. Now, I don't want to go through all this. I just think it's interesting that they're turning on him. But Cuomo said that socialists can't produce anything they promise, and none of their platforms are viable. Here's one of the issues I have with him. He can say this now, but again, it's why we have bail reform. It's why we have the SAFE Act. It's why we have the green policies that we do, because he was willing to cave to the left because he didn't want a challenger, just like Hochul. So I know I've said on this program a lot, I've said it elsewhere, that these quote-unquote moderate Democrats or these quote-unquote establishment Democrats, if they're upset about the rise of socialism, they were the one that fed it. They were the ones that stayed silent. They were the ones that encouraged it because they didn't want a far-left challenger. Now, did you hear what Senator John Kennedy called the new socialists? They asked Republican Senator John Kennedy about former Vice President Kamala Harris. He called her, or he teased her for cozying up to what he calls the Lululemons. Like Lululemons? Lululemons, as in Lenin and Marx, unveiling a new nickname for Democrat socialists that quickly went viral online. Kennedy called Harris no longer relevant in an interview with Sean Hannity. No disrespect, but Vice President Harris is no longer relevant. She had her shot and she missed. Now, we do have to say, though, I know Senator Kennedy believes that, and I would tend to agree, but that doesn't mean that Kamala Harris thinks it's over. I think Kamala Harris is going to run. Now, whether or not she wins, or if it's like the first time she ran for president and she didn't even make it to a single vote in the primary, or whether because of the $2 billion they spent in 107 days, her name relevance is still there. Will it see her make a move? I don't know. But Kennedy said she can cozy up to the Lululemons all she wants to. And that is in reference to the fact that, and by the way, Harris, who said she is thinking about a 2028 presidential bid, has been quietly strengthening ties with the rising socialist stars like Zohran Mamdani, I think who else was it? Al-Assad or was that? I know. I guess Barack Obama. We talked about yesterday. Talked with Al-Assad. One person joked online, as much as I like my Lululemons, whoever wrote Lululemon into Senator Kennedy's talking points deserves a Pulitzer. Kennedy, if you ever get bored, just find some of his hearings, and boy, he can be funny. That's for sure. He made some other comments. I'm not going to mention it. Okay. A CNN panel devolved into chaos on Monday night after Democrats accused Republicans of launching an anti-Muslim attack on Dr. Abdul al-Sahad. And remember, this happened, al-Assad wants to distance himself now that he won the primary from that Hasim Piker, that far-left Democrat socialist podcaster who said that America deserved 9/11, these type of things. We went through his quotes in the past. But if you recall primary night, when it was very close and they didn't know if al-Assad was going to win, at his campaign headquarters, Piker was there, and he blamed the closeness of the race on Islamophobia. So this is going to be the talking points. Islamophobia, this is what the Democrats are running with. So by using Dr. Abdul al-Sahad's name in a campaign ad, his full name, you're pushing anti-Muslim rhetoric. His full name, I don't know how you would say it, but there's a new ad where Tim Scott's defense of an ad campaign that blasts al-Assad as a dangerous candidate using his full name, Abdurrahman Mohammed al-Sahad. I know President Trump has done that in the past as well. In an interview clip, the senator was asked whether the ads are an attempt to tell voters, hint, he's Muslim. Scott responded, not at all. I can get called Timothy Eugene. I get called that all the time. After playing the clip, Berman said, I have never heard Tim Scott referred to as Timothy Eugene in a campaign ad. I don't want to go through the back and forth because I just end up reading it, but I don't know how Scott says that with a straight face, honestly. The idea that using Tim Scott's full name unabbreviated is equivalent to using Abdul al-Sahad's full name is just ludicrous. It is obviously, in al-Sahad's case, an appeal to an anti-Muslim, anti-Arab sentiment. Jason Rance, a conservative radio host, actually had a good point on this. He said, yeah, people didn't know he was Muslim until he said his full name. Yeah, I mean, back in 2009, he told the New York Times, quote, when I die and I stand before God, I don't want to say I did it the easy way instead of the Sharia compliant way. So that he felt obligated to follow Sharia law until the day he dies. These are things he said. So as that radio host said, as if people didn't know, he's been very forthcoming with this. I don't want to go through the back and forth, but I think Michael Goodwin had a very good point on this to tie it in. That he says, like a dog barking, how am I doing on time? Yeah, I'll go with it. Like a dog barking at the moon, the New York Times has spotted a fresh outbreak of anti-Muslim prejudice. A front page story declared that the victory of Abdul al-Sahad in Michigan's Democratic Senate primary unleashed a wave of Islamophobia. As proof, the paper cited a smattering of quotes from Republicans, including President Trump, claiming that Democrats are electing jihadists. Fair enough up to a point, but the article is more broadly a reflection of the Times' refusal to call anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism for what they are. Yes, the Times runs with this, whatever you think of the point of calling jihadists. Where was this conversation about the anti-Semitism that we've been bringing stories time after time? The party, it feels outdated, almost antique. I've said it so many times when Van Jones, way back, said that the Democrat Party was rife or was marbled with anti-Semitism. In brushing aside al-Assad's charge that Israel is guilty of genocide in Gaza, it fails to mention that he never condemned Hamas's widespread atrocities during its invasion of October 7, 2023 that started the war. Without that, and without citing the barbaric treatment of Israeli hostages, including children, readers are left with an inference that Israel started the war. Similar, the article glides over al-Assad's support from and closeness to Hasim Piker, the vile commentator who once said America deserves 9/11. At 11, excuse me. Nor does it cite al-Assad's violent imagery about how to move the party leftward. Quote, ideally you put one ogre on a pike, and then everyone else gets the message. And that was in reference to Fetterman. To back up its claim of widespread hate against Muslims, the paper quotes the Deputy Director of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, who blames the fact that Muslim candidates are critical of Israel and want to end American aid. Naturally, the Times doesn't mention that CARE itself was labeled an unindicted co-conspirator by the Justice Department in a terrorism financing trial that involved sending money to Hamas, but sure, it's Islamophobia. So nothing new there. We got more to talk about on the Democrat Socialists of America. I don't want to run too late. Stay with us. We'll be right back. A lot of comments, a lot of waves coming in. I love it. Keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
I'm attorney Megan Collins with WYDC Injury Law. I'm always on the lookout for preventable defects and dangers.
Wait, watch your step.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
It's just my personality. But injuries happen, especially since I can't always be with you to point out hazards. WYDC Injury Law represents people who've been injured due to the negligence of others. There's no fee unless we win your case. Car accidents, fall injuries, wrongful death claims, we do it all.
Chief, watch out for that tree.
The best nail salon?
Ask Google. The best sub shop? Ask Google.
The best Jeep dealer?
Ask Google. We did. Google reviews from customers rank Ferrario Jeep in Elmira the highest Jeep dealer in our area.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Check out the new Jeeps during our Make This the Summer event.
Visit Ferrario Jeep in Elmira or FerrarioElmira.com.
Come celebrate the 207th Steuben County Fair from Monday, August 17th through Sunday, August 23rd. Wednesday, August 19th is Broken Bee Rodeo starting at 7 p.m. And there's more. Demolition derbies, monster truck show, games, rides, fun for the whole family. For tickets and information, visit SteubenCountyFair.org. Experience the Steuben County Fair from August 17th through the 23rd.
I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83, we'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler to end.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A lot of viewer comments here. Let's get right to them. Frankly, yesterday as I listened to the national news detailed reporting of President Trump Air Force One Operation Switcheroo in Turkey, it raised the question, is this story all spirited conjecture by a fake news organization? Or if true, who leaked the details of this national security operation to the press, thereby neutralizing the strategy, or neutering, the strategy for future use and further jeopardizing the president in similar situations? That's a great question, because that's one of the questions we raised yesterday on the program. Who leaked this? How did this information get out, if it's true? Apparently there's video of the catering vehicle actually doing what was said in those reports. So it sounds to me like it's another problem with leaks, which was a huge issue in Trump's first term, and it's becoming a major issue in the second. So great question. Comment from a different viewer. Just bring up the obvious, but I wonder if any Democrat can explain to me the difference between being anti-Israel and anti-Islam Muslim. By the way, I'm anti-Islamic terrorist. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I think the point of Michael Goodman was making. They ran with Islamophobic article. Well, where's been the discussions on anti-Semitism? That's ignored. It's frustrating. Okay, Jack writes in and says, good morning, Franco. Good morning, Jack. I always agree with Mark. We can't blame the illegal immigrants themselves for what the previous administration did by allowing the border to be flooded. In my opinion, it was a serious mistake to create policies that appear to give people who entered illegally a shortcut toward citizenship while millions of people were trying to immigrate through the legal process. The result was an immigration system This seemed unfair to those who followed the rules. And beyond immigration itself, I worry about people bringing political and cultural attitudes from radical places hostile to the United States and expecting to recreate those same policies in states they moved to. Jack continues, I moved to Tennessee years before the large migration from other states began. I assimilated into the Tennessee way of life, and I appreciated the lower taxes, lower cost of living, and traditional Southern culture. But I've watched Tennessee gradually begin to take on some of the economic, political, and social characteristics that made people want to leave places like South America and California in the first place. The one thing I certainly can't complain about is the effect on my real estate investment. My property has tripled in value to almost California-like levels. However, at today's prices in South Knoxville, there's no way I could afford to buy the same property now. And that's my concern. Once an area becomes more expensive and moves significantly to the left politically, it's very difficult to get back to the good old days of affordable living and the culture that originally made the place attractive. I'm seriously considering moving my legal residency to South Central Florida now. That's a better fit for me to be able to fly inexpensively back and forth in a little over 2 hours for around $100 instead of driving 12 to Tennessee or 22 hours to Florida. Well, thank you, Jack. Appreciate that. Since he said such nice words about Mark, we'll quote Mark. Mark writes in and says, as far as Newsom saying Trump wants to get us back into the 60s, I think that is bogus. In my opinion, Trump has done a great job of getting America back on track, not depending on foreign countries and just getting America back on track. Well, thank you, Mark. And Ken writes in, I was hoping that Hung would win the primary for governor of Wisconsin. If she did, it would have been fun to watch the debates and easier to elect a Republican. I agree, Ken. I would like to see Hung because now the real campaign ads, yes, we knew about the Thanksgiving quotes and we knew about that. But those, I'm sure there's other things that the Republicans were sitting on in preparation for a general election with her. So I'm with you. I think it would have been a much easier win for Republicans. Also, having said that, I know I don't want to belabor this point. Sound like a broken record. But when Bernie Sanders, who endorses everybody that's a socialist, when he didn't, I think there was our idea that we should probably know that she didn't have it in her to win it. You know, something else that's kind of interesting, and we've heard this and we've seen people talk about it. I can't remember who said it exactly, but when they saw the Democrat Socialists of America celebrating one of their victories in New York, and on the screen they showed Hakeem Jeffries, and the crowd started chanting, "You're next, you're next," because they don't like Hakeem Jeffries. They don't believe he's far left enough. They don't believe he's done enough to fight Trump. And one of the Democrat commentators said that was a very troubling image because so many of the Democrat Socialists of America are young white people. So to see the white people chanting and yelling at Hakeem Jeffries, they said, was a very reminiscent of bad days, right? Well, the numbers show that the New York City, now this is just New York City, but New York City Democrat Socialists of America, that a solid majority of that group self-identifies as white, despite the far-left faction touting itself as champions of diversity and inclusivity. The Big Apple chapter, whose membership includes Mayor Zohran Mamdani and Queens Congresswoman and squad member AOC, is 60% white, 60% white. An internal demographic survey of its members found. That makes the socialist organization considerably less racially diverse than the New York City population and even the Democrat Party as a whole. The Democratic Party is approximately 56% white, according to Pew Research Center. So 60% white, and that's been a criticism of and that's what I mean when I talk about the Democrat Socialists of America turning on themselves, because how can they be the most aggrieved and how can they be the most offended? It would be the line of reasoning. Meanwhile, according to the latest available data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the population of New York City, one of the most diverse cities in the world, is just 34% white. Just mentioning it. Now, the DSA and New York City's DSA ranks have swelled since the beginning, when it first kind of took prominence in 2021, with nationwide membership ticking up over 120,000, and the New York City chapter eclipsing 15,600 members. So New York City DSA said 63% of its members took part in the survey. Among the group's non-white respondents were those identifying as Jewish. Interesting. Jewish, 12%. Wow. Hispanic 14, Black 9, Asian 10, South Asian 5, Middle Eastern 4, Native American 2, and less than 1% identified as Pacific Islanders, in case you're curious. Rich Lowry, how am I doing on time? Yeah, we're doing okay. Which way do I want to go? Do I want to go Rich Lowry? Well, Jeremy Hunt, let's talk about what he had to say first. And then we're going to get into, we've got two more Democrat Socialists. You know what? I'm going to take a break. We've got two more Democrat Socialists of America issues to bring up. Then we're going to move on to New York because there's just so much to talk about with New York State issues. And it seems like lately I've been running late and kind of rushing through it at the end. Now, again, if you are just joining us, we don't have a guest on this morning. I specifically blocked off today so we could spend a little time together because we've been going crazy. If you missed any of our informative, entertaining debates, you can find them on our YouTube page at WYDCTV.com. This week, we talked about the book, The Life of First Lady Julia Tyler, called Presidentes. Yes, on Monday we had director and cast member from Young Frankenstein. Last week, Joe Sempolinski was on. So many people on we talked with the Rotary about their upcoming summer feast this Saturday. So if you missed any of them, you can find them, and we can still talk about them. All right, keep your comments, keep your waves coming in because we're having a blast this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Looking for a meaningful day trip close to home? Visit the historic Elmira Prison Camp, one of the most significant Civil War sites in the North. Walk the grounds, stand where history happened, discover powerful stories of courage, sacrifice, and survival that shaped our nation. Whether you're a history enthusiast, a family looking to learn together, or simply exploring the Finger Lakes region, we offer an experience you won't forget. Plan your visit today at elmiracivilwar.org. Preserve, discover, remember.
You deserve primary care that connects. Care that helps you move forward. To a provider who knows you. To the care you need. To the life you love. That's the power of a strong connection. Meet your new primary care provider at centralishealth.org/schedule. And be seen within a week.
The U.S. Department of State releasing a travel caution worldwide. Firefighters responding to a fire alarm on Wednesday found several safety violations.
Free local pantry here and her front lawn and painted post.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We were talking about the new poll that shows that Bruce Blakeman is making moves. He's getting closer to unseating Governor Hochul. We'll tell you a little bit about what that poll has to say, but I see that his campaign just released a statement. I just received it in my email saying all the polls we have seen in the last 2 months have us virtually tied with Kathy Hochul. This poll is always off and continues to be off. We know and she knows this race is neck and neck. Kathy Hochul is desperate for people to believe that she is way ahead when she knows that her high taxes, soaring electric bills, and increased crime have made her the worst governor in America. So thank you to Bruce Blakeman for sending that in. All right, comment from a viewer. I have to wonder just how the communist Bernie Sanders keeps winning his elections. I can only trust that the people who continue to vote for this communist come to their senses and vote him out. He's Vermont. That has a lot to do with it. And he gained in popularity, let's face it. If the fix wasn't in already for the Clintons, I think he could have won that primary. And then it would have been a much different race. It would have been an interesting race against him and Trump. But he was kind of the beginning of this push towards socialism. And Jeremy Hunt says, for the 333 million Americans who don't live in New York City, there are plenty of reasons not to care what goes on there. It doesn't affect our day-to-day lives. New Yorkers democratically elected their socialist leader. It's their bed, let them lie in it. Or, as the mainstream media likes to put it, it's probably just hyped up right-wing hysteria. And of course, that's exactly how the communists in our country want us to think. But right now, may be the most important moment to push back. It's incumbent on all of us to resist the normalization of socialism in America. Speak up now so that what's radical in New York City today doesn't become the norm in your neighborhood tomorrow. I had this conversation with Joe Semplinsky that my belief, my thought, is that we will start to see Democrat Socialists of America candidates running in more localized races. And to be clear, there are plenty of radical things going on in New York City right now. We don't have to go through all that. But Mamdani is drawing up the blueprint for socialist tactics and the weaponization of government around the country. He's testing what the American people will tolerate. So long as the rest of us shrug our shoulders and move on, he's one step closer to something far more aggressive. That's why everyday Americans must push back in one of the most powerful but overlooked ways, by talking about it. The best way to resist the normalization of socialism is to expose it and treat it as a serious threat. It is. Americans have short attention spans, and every story, no matter how outrageous, completes for clicks in our attention economy. That is exactly the kind of environment that allows socialism to spread. If one thing is clear, socialism rarely stays put. The leaders of the DSA make it their mission to push socialism all across the country. For Mamdani and his ilk, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Contrary to what the media might lead you to believe, they have no intention of running New York City into the ground and packing up and going home. They're here to stay, and they aren't sitting on the sidelines. One of the greatest lies propagated in the media is the Democrat Socialists are just far left wing of the Democrat Party. That's why we're hearing so many of them say farther left progressives. They want us to believe that communists are only on the fringe of the Democrat Party of politics. That might have been the case when avowed socialist Bernie Sanders was pushed out of the way for Hillary Clinton 10 years ago, but times are different now. The socialists are now the heart of the Democrat Party, with a co-chair who muses openly about abolishing the Senate and the Electoral College and insists none of it is extreme. They might have played the supporting role in years prior, but now they're monopolizing all the main character energy that the left has to offer. Thankfully, those of us who love our country still have an important role to play too. Expose every socialist policy and every destructive DSA platform and call the leaders who champion them what they are, communists. It is better to be accused of overreacting now than of complacency later. I thought that was a really good piece by Jeremy Hunt. He's a media fellow at the Hudson Institute and chairman of Veterans on Duty, a nonprofit organization focused on national security. But Richard Lowry looks at it a little different too. That he says the United States of America may be the greatest place for functionally illiterate people to live in all of human history. An eye-popping column in the Financial Times noted how people in the United States with very low literacy make about as much per hour as the average worker in Great Britain. It is the result of a brilliant public policy carefully crafted to boost the prospects of those on the margins? No, it's a byproduct of the vast, endlessly dynamic wealth-generating machine that is the American economy. The Financial Times also compared cohorts of low-literacy workers in the U.S. and the U.K. The same proportion of U.S. workers who score stunningly low on literacy earn an average of almost $30 per hour, and two-thirds of them are in work. Their British counterparts make the equivalent of $20 an hour, and fewer than half are employed. Factory workers in the U.S. earn 60% more than in the U.K. after adjusting for differences in living costs. Plumbers and electricians earn 90% more, and retail workers earn double. While the UK isn't what it used to be, it's still a major G7 economy, yet it has been significantly outpaced by its former colony across the Atlantic. Our political debate is characterized by a mismatch between the extraordinary world-beating economic achievement of the U.S. on one hand and the determination of the left and some elements of the right to throw out our economic system as a rank failure on the other. This is not to deny real economic discontent, especially around high costs for housing, education, and healthcare. But perhaps no economic system has been so vilified while so consistently delivering. And it goes through, and he talks about this case for this revolutionary change that we're hearing from the Democratic Socialists of America are pushing. But it depends on, in his mind, Rich Lowry, dishonesty and misleading claims. Bernie Sanders on Monday posted a figure showing the United States was the highest child poverty rate among a group of developed countries at 21.1%. We must end the outrage, he thundered, that in the richest country in the history of the world, more than 1 in 5 children live in poverty. The problem with the number, which comes from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, is that it measures income relative to a country's median rather than absolute poverty. In other words, the statistics tell us where people stand compared to others in their own country, not about material deprivation as such. And I don't want to go through all this because it does get really wonky. All such discussions, though, should begin with recognition of what we've built and a commitment to preserving it, rather than the DSA approach of hoping to guillotine as a class enemy the goose that keeps laying the golden egg. I thought that was a good point. We got to take a short break. All right, we're going to get to New York State issues when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Give kids time.
This year, WYDC is bringing you 25 New York Mets games free over the air this spring and summer. No fees and no subscription services. Tune into WJKP 48.2 to watch the New York Mets this MLB season. Let's go Mets!
Kids time. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
More cars. Lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Whether you're in the market for new, used, or certified pre-owned, Simmons Rockwell locations across the Twin Tiers have more of what you're looking for with our best price right on the windshield. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
Mess is so uplifting. You see how the community rallies around us, saying we're going to fight this thing with you, no matter how long it takes or what it takes.
I love the energy at Walk MS. It is community, it is family. I can ride that high for the rest of the year.
A cure is on the line for me.
A cure is on the line for all of us.
Hello, I'm meteorologist Brandon Weathers. Scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83. We'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Some comments from viewers. Mark writes in, way to go, Bruce Blakeman. And Ty is getting there. Now go and beat Hochul, vote red. We'll tell you about that poll here in just a little bit. Rick writes in and says, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. 60% of Americans are against AI data centers, in large part due to state, local, and federal governments being slow to or not addressing local concerns at all. AI could be the most powerful tool ever. Unfortunately, in America, we are more reactionary than we are at putting controls in place to properly manage technology. So AI will just be able to go wherever it wants and do whatever it wants. Whoever breathed life into AI needs to have guidelines to control it, or it will control us. July was the hottest month since records started being tracked in 1895, but heck, there is no global warming problem, is there, Trump? Let's just pull out all of the climate control organizations and stop funding research to get our climate back in control before it's too late to recover it. Yeah, let's do it. Bruce Blakeman needs a new commercial. I'm sick of watching this one. You wore it out, Bruce. Besides, like anyone else, Republican or Democrat, he'll never cut taxes, create jobs, and for crying out loud, cut utility costs in half. Come on, Bruce. That's a stretch-a-rooney, says Rick. Okay, about New York. This ties in perfectly because we're going to New York. New York's DOH, Department of Health Commissioner, says that school vaccine rules will stay the same despite the federal changes that Trump put through on that executive order the other day. Under the order, vaccines against just 11 diseases are recommended for all children, including polio and whooping cough. This is down from 17 diseases before that executive order. Well, it takes a while for them to, I mean, they're essentially defending this position. New York's top doctor, James McDonald, says the federal changes won't affect requirements in New York. You know, states are the ones who recommend vaccines, but also require vaccines for school entry. I think it's also important for New Yorkers to know that there was no new science presented yesterday, no new research, nothing really changed. The order also recommends states separate the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines into 3 different shots, something Dr. McDonald said he won't consider. Why wouldn't you? I guess I don't understand why you wouldn't consider that. That's one of the problems, and I think Trump made that point during the executive order when someone was asking him a question. Why can't you ask the question? Doesn't that kind of freak people out a little bit? That you can't even ask the question? Or in this case, no, we're never going to separate them. Why? Because Trump said it. We know it's very effective at preventing serious disease. I think it's just important for people to know that the New York State Department of Health were very, very thoughtful and deliberate about our vaccine recommendations. I don't know. I just find that very strange. Also, I don't know if you saw this. Cattaraugus County Sheriff Eric Butler, he's a Republican. He went viral on social media for pushing back against Hochul's, that deal where local law enforcement can't work with federal immigration officials, ICE. The ban on so-called 287G agreements is part of a package of new sanctuary laws that the Democrat-dominated legislature pushed through in the last session. Eric Butler, Sheriff Butler, said Governor Hochul does not know Cattaraugus County better than I do. She does not patrol our roads. She does not operate our jail. She does not answer the calls of our residents when they need help, and she does not stand beside the men and women of this sheriff's office who do that work every single day. Yet Albany continually dictates to local governments how we must operate, what programs we must provide, how we must police our communities, and then expects our local taxpayers to pick up the bill. Butler said he was set off by a spokesperson in Hochul's office saying counties do not get to pick and choose which state laws they follow, but then saying governments who disagree are not interested in keeping New York communities safe. He said Albany's definition of local government is they make the rules, we pay the bills, and we're expected to keep our mouths shut. I won't. And now the governor wants to tell me that cooperation with federal immigration authorities somehow demonstrates that I'm not interested in keeping my community safe. That assertion is offensive. He said Hochul can't question his or his force's commitment to protecting the people of Cattaraugus because he refuses to blindly accept every policy that comes out of Albany. Quote, Albany should be accountable for the consequences of the laws it passes, the mandates it imposes, the financial burden it places on local taxpayers, and the public safety policies it forces upon communities hundreds of miles away. Wow. There you go. Now, as I mentioned, I just had to pass that along because it was forceful. It went viral. Now, Hochul and Blakeman were campaigning in New York City with less than 3 months until Election Day. Blakeman tried to get some attention in what's often known as the dog days of August, both of them. They mentioned both. In less than 85 days out, so that was yesterday, so 84. Hochul also touted support she's given to families. Okay, everything's about Hochul. Typical article. And she attacked Blakeman for meeting with Trump. Blakeman discussed Trump's upcoming visit, saying he wants to honor our police officers, our deputy sheriffs, our corrections officers, our probation officers. She's always passing laws and doing things that makes it easier for criminals to operate in our communities. Here's the problem with it. Going back to Rick's point about the one-year moratorium on data centers, here's the problem with it. It's the fastest growing industry in the world. We are the empire state and we're not competing. And she says she needs time to figure it out. Well, Kathy, you had 4 years to figure it out. What have you been doing? Then he talked about the 287G that we just mentioned with Cattaraugus. Right? Was it Cattaraugus? Did I already forget? It was Cattaraugus, right? Saying we removed over 2,000 illegal migrants with criminal records. What community do you want to destroy? She's saying that it's anti-immigration. No, it's law enforcement. I happen to be pro-immigration. A court of law told me I must terminate the agreement. Then I believe in the rule of law, and even if I don't agree with the law, I swore to uphold the law. Now, as I mentioned, that Siena poll, we got to take a break. You know what they're doing now? They're doing the same thing to Blakeman that they did with Trump. And this is the problem I have. If he questions anything, they're saying, well, he's questioning the election. So when I think it's a very fair question to say, why were Democrats who created matching funds, whether you like matching funds or not, matching funds were created so the little person could take on the incumbent. So the little person, that's what their argument was. I don't buy it or believe it. But so the little guy, Blakeman, comes in to beat the big bad incumbent, and they deny him matching funds. They tried to. He ultimately got it. But if you question that, they say, oh, election denier. So then we mentioned yesterday where Blakeman's being sued by the Democrats because he's using AI depictions in some of his ads. So, oh shoot, what article? I'll tell you the name of the person. I don't see the outline. I apologize. Jack Arpey says, as Democrats move to stop Blakeman's AI depictions, he again claims they're trying to cheat. Okay. It's false. Where is it? Okay, so they quote, just like the other article, they quote Hochul and the Democrat Party chair all the way down to, are we on second page yet? Okay, on Tuesday, Blakeman said he will not stop using AI in his campaign ads. In doing so, he took the opportunity to sow additional doubt around election integrity. They're trying to cheat. They're trying to say Blakeman is using AI. Everybody knows it. It's AI, and it's funny. Satire has been a part of politics since George Washington. So that's him suggesting that there's going to be election fraud. No, what he's saying is they're trying to take away, again, his fundraising, the money he fundraised from, the matching funds, because they're saying he's cheating. That's what they're saying. Talk about a perfect biased political spin, a left-wing biased political spin in this article by Mr. Arpey. As Democrats move to stop Blakeman's AI depictions, he again claims they're trying to cheat. Well, he does say they're trying to cheat, but that headline's misleading because that is what they're doing. They're trying to take away his matching funds. So how else could you look at it? It's the same reason they originally took away their matching funds. So he's not denying the election results, which is this is kind of dripping with. Wow. Anyway, enough on that. AI, there's going to be a lawsuit. I guess they're scared. Okay. We got to take a break. I heard the whistle. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Watch news from the Twin Tiers and catch local events on Facebook.com/Big Fox News. Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Live a carefree, engaging lifestyle at Apple Ridge Senior Living, where exceptional is the standard. It's time to redefine your future. Pursue your passions and make meaningful connections. Enjoy an inclusive and customizable senior living experience. Everything you could want, more than you expect. Visit appleridgeseniorliving.com and schedule your tour today.
I'm a salon owner and biker.
I am a fundraiser for a local not-for-profit.
I'm in the hospitality business.
Work construction.
I'm a CAT scan tech at a local hospital.
I work at a nuclear disposal site. I'm a graphic designer.
I'm a machinist by trade, and I also own a motorcycle shop.
Folks that ride should know, at William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Steve. If people don't believe that there's a correlation between the inoculations and autism, it was 1 in 10,000 back in the 60s and 70s, and now it's become 1 out of every 36 for children. What else has changed besides that, and also the foods that we eat, which is also, in my opinion, poisoning people that don't realize what is in it that they're eating. The saying goes, if you can't pronounce what's on the package, you shouldn't eat it. Thank you very much, Steve. Coming from a different viewer, for once and only for once, I agree with Rick that we need to get rid of all these crazy and corrupt global warming nonsensical policies. Way to go, Rick, but wait, were you being factitiously contrary? Too bad you buy into the fake news propaganda. I suggest you do some serious research to extract facts from fiction. And Ken writes in, will socialism get a better foothold in America? It absolutely will. Because a greater force against it absolutely will become a greater force against capitalism in America. Let's do something that the sheeple are incapable of doing, some critical thinking. As we go forward, prices will continue to rise every year from 2 to 4%. And most people will get upset with the increased cost of living and blame businesses and the wealthy for the increases. Socialists will focus on this and gin up the jealousy of the masses, and they will want their fair share. The promise of free services and goods is a powerful motivator. Relief now looks better to most than possible relief sometime in the future after hard work. The thing that most will not think about or believe will materialize is that socialism during the long term ends up badly for the masses and very good for the people in charge. That people become pawns in that country controlled by the people in charge. Thank you very much, Ken. I appreciate that. It's an instant gratification culture we're in. Yes, I'd rather take the quick, whether it's even just a feeling of having their candidate win, promising them everything, or whether it's, like in New York City, the free grocery stores or whatever they're called, government-run grocery stores. Yeah. Last break. Get those last second comments in, and we're going to wrap up all right today. Boy, that went fast, especially without a guest in. We've had some great conversations. I really do appreciate it. You can give us your last-minute thoughts on what happened in last night's primaries or just weigh in general. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
I had to pack up all my things. I had to leave my home. And I never knew where I was going next. It felt like I never even had a say. But then you came along.
Change a child's story. There's a child in foster care waiting for a volunteer like you. Learn how you can help at nationalcasagal.org.
One big day of smooth jazz awaits you at the Ferrario Elmira Jazz Festival. Join us at Thorne Street Park Saturday, August 15th for chart-topping jazz keyboardist Brian Simpson and soprano saxophonist Marion Meadows with local favorite Top Shelf. Celebrate with us. Tickets only $42. It's one big day. Buy tickets at ElmiraJazzFestival.com. Brian, Marion, and Top Shelf. One big day.
It's more than music!
Hello, I'm meteorologist Brandon. Weathers, scattered showers and thunderstorms are possible this afternoon into tonight, with generally less than 1/10 of an inch expected, with the exception of some locally higher amounts possible in these storms. 83 for a high. We'll see 78 to 84 across the region. Overnight lows then, that'll be in the upper 50s and low 60s. By Thursday, 83, we'll have some lingering shower potential, drier and cooler to end the week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. As I mentioned, Bruce Blakeman could unsee Hochul. Right now, time-wise, he's doing even a little bit better. Again, it's a pool, it's a Siena pool, but doing better than Zeldin at this point in the race. Blakeman is losing as of right now, is down by just 10 points, 49 to 39% among likely voters. That places him in a better position than Lee Zeldin was at this time 4 years ago. And I don't want to read through all the numbers. I will say, just because they're friends, frankly speaking, I want to read you the other numbers in the races. Two-term Democrat State Attorney General Letitia James leads her Republican challenger, former federal prosecutor Saritha Kamanareddy, by 18 points, 54 to 36. I think the biggest problem there is Bruce Blakeman's having enough trouble with the way the bias is in the media getting coverage. Imagine when you start talking Attorney General candidates. We had Saritha on. If you, again, I don't want to keep promoting the YouTube, but go on there. It was great. She's a strong candidate. As well as Joseph Hernandez was a great candidate. Tom DiNapoli leads Joseph Hernandez by 23 points, 55 to 32. All right. Now, Blakeman blasted Governor Hochul, claiming that the real leader of the New York Democratic Party is Mamdani. She's doing everything that Zohran Mamdani wants her to do because he's running the party now. I think it's true. And I don't know if it's just at the state level. I think it could be national level. We want to encourage people to invest in second homes in New York State. What are you, crazy? Saying he'd get rid of that second home tax. But have you noticed Hochul's trying to distance herself from him? We're not responsible for the rollout. We had nothing to do with it. Oh, I forgot this comment from a viewer. Regarding the matching funds, sounds to me like the communists here in New York are trying to buy the election by taking away the monetary ability of any threat to the regime to get the word out. Yeah, they were trying to take away the money from Blakeman. It didn't work, but that was their goal. Ken writes in, I forgot to add one thing. The Democrats have been playing the long game to socialism. Part of the plan is to water down the electorate by bringing in millions of future voters into our country with people that don't hold the same values as long-term citizens. Thank you, Ken. Mark writes in, I'm surprised that the Dems haven't dug up some dirt on Bruce Blakeman. Have a great day. Well, thank you. You have a great day as well, Mark. They may. I think the Democrats are in an interesting position. It's almost like when Hillary ran against Trump. They were so sure that they were going to beat Trump that, remember, they didn't even fight. Obama didn't even fight to get a Supreme Court justice. It was going to be Merrick Garland, but they didn't fight hard enough. They said, we'll let Hillary pick it, essentially. It was going to be a Democrat either way. I mean, they just saw Hillary was going to win, so it wasn't going to be an issue. Same here. I think they're so sure that they're going to win, that Hochul's going to win, that they're not doing the legwork on Blakeman. And that's not just op research. That's just the legwork in general, the campaigning. Trump ripped the second house tax as well, calling it amateur hour that'll ruin New York City. All right, I know. We got to go. But Hochul is trying to distance herself from that bungled rollout of the two-house tax. But they're saying that could haunt her. Well, it'll be interesting because you could see Mamdani and his group turning on her. But man, it's going to come back. The industry source says she can't be running on tax and spend, Kathy. But I don't know. That's enough. What am I doing? We're running late. Thank you to thank you for all the comments. That was a lot of fun this morning. We covered a lot, and I'm glad that you could be a part of it. I enjoyed all of them. And please join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.
When it comes to home improvement, Horseheads Do-It Center has you covered. Family-owned, locally trusted, and packed with everything you need for any project. From top-quality tools to kitchen and bath essentials, we make it easy. Competitive prices, expert advice, friendly service. Visit us at 124 North Main Street or online at doitbest.com/horseheads today.